be alright. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. Three little birds perched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs. Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Katie and welcome to the stress-free place to keep you moving, grooving, and improving in your musical journey. Today I'm going to be teaching you what I think is the secret weapon to reggae music, and that is space.
Space, the final frontier.
Sometimes it's not about what you play that is the most interesting thing, but it's the spaces in between. So what is that secret weapon? It is left-handed muting. Let's talk a little bit about the rhythm of reggae and what are you really looking for, and then how do you use space in order to create a really awesome reggae beat, because most of the time the most beautiful things or the most interesting things about music is what you don't play. Thank you to Enya Music for sponsoring this video, and let's get into it. Now, long story short, reggae really emphasizes the offbeat, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So when we strum it 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be silent count 1, and then you would emphasize the ands. So a simple way to play a reggae beat is that you would mute your strings, and then you would strum up on the offbeat or down. I think it doesn't matter to me, but you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now it can be more complicated than that, absolutely. Can you add just dozens of different variations? Absolutely you can. But if you're looking for a simple way just to add just a simple reggae beat, think about the offbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right. Now this is something that I like to call the Boogie BOP. So it's 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. It's a way to subdivide the first eighth note into two 16th notes. 1 E and then we keep the eighth note. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So if I were just going to play it on muted strings, it would sound like this: down up down, down up down, down up down, down up down. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. All right. So it may be a little awkward if you've just begun to strum because you have the down up down, and then right after that it's another downstroke, right? So we have down up down, down up down, down up down, down up down. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. And the reason why I like to call this the Boogie BOP, it's because it just gives it a word to the rhythm, and sometimes it's just easier to have a word along with the rhythm, and then the bop is actually really important. So first on the boogie, I'm going to mute my strings with my left hand like this. I'm just going to lightly touch the strings. You do not have to press down. What you're doing is essentially you are stopping the strings from vibrating or preventing them from vibrating when you strum down on your strings. So if you hear something ring out, you're probably squeezing too hard with one of these fingers or hand or something around there. So just kind of troubleshoot through, try to figure out, wait, what's the culprit? My pinky. Ease off on the gas pedal right there, and then strum your muted strings. So the first one is a down up on the 2 16th notes. Boogie. All right. Boogie. 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 1 E. 1 E. 1 E. 1 E. Okay, now where's the bop? What happens is that your left hand is going to hold a chord essentially, and then there's going to be some extra fingers. If you're playing an open chord, you have to figure out what those extra fingers are, and I'll go through that with you with some basic chords. And then you're going to use those extra fingers to cover your open strings when you have your boogie. All right, so let's start off on a C chord. There's two ways that I like to teach this Boogie BOP, and then we'll get into bar chords because it is really, really great for this with left-handed muting. Creates this nice little scratch, 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 scratch. All right, helps you keep your rhythm too. So the first way that you can play a C is this way, and then you can take these two extra fingers, and then you can cover strings 4, 3, and 2. And then your ring finger is going to lightly touch that A string so that you make sure that all of your strings are essentially covered or muted, just lightly touching the string because you're just preventing them from vibrating. So I first have my down up on my boogie, and then for the bop, what happens is that I push down on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. These 2 fingers release off of the fretboard. It doesn't have to be really far. I'm going to exaggerate the motion so you can see, and then I cover the strings to mute them. But first, let's do step 1 where you do the boogie ba, and then we'll get to the bop part. So first I have my muted strings, down, up, and now we strum down. I want you to release your fingers and strum your C chord. Do you see that? Boogie ba, boogie ba, boogie ba, boogie ba, like that. Do you see that? And I didn't have to lift too far off of the fretboard or off of the strings. It should be a subtle motion like that. When I mute sometimes with this position is that sometimes we forget to release the pressure off of this finger right here. So otherwise it starts to ring out like that. So you have to remember. Another way that you could play the C chord is actually just reposition your hand, and then now you're going to use your index finger, and then these extra fingers are going to cover these strings right here so that you have your boogie and then ba, like that. But you see, like that, it's just covering a little bit of distance right there. So we have down, up, ba, down, up, ba, down, up, ba, down, up, ba. Now you're probably asking yourself, Katie, where's the bop? You sang boogie ba. It doesn't really sound like reggae quite yet. The bop is very important because that emulates that automatopoeia is like boogie bop. For me, visually, I think of the staccato. The staccato is that little tiny dot on top of the note right there, and it makes it a short, crisp stop after you play the note. How do you get that? After you play your note or your chord, your fingers cover the strings to mute them again. All right? So it'll sound like this. Do you hear the bop? Boogie bop. Boogie bop. And so then immediately after you strum and you let those strings vibrate, you whoop, you cover those strings, you lightly touch them, and it mutes the string. Boogie bop. Boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop. I'm going to go to the side. I'm going to turn to the side right here so you can see it. Boogie bop, boogie bop, down, up, down, down, up, down. It may take a little time to get the coordination to get that bop, but that's perfectly okay. Try to get that coordination as best as you can on a C chord, or you could even get that coordination as best as you can on open strings. Like that first before you start to add any chord. I think I recommend that maybe before starting a C chord, but still I wanted you to hear how it sounded with a chord. And so being patient with yourself, working through the down, up, lift, cover, down, up, lift, cover. That bop is going to be essential with the style of music that you want to play. Creates lots of space, lots of interest, because like I said before, sometimes the most interesting thing that you play is actually what you don't play. It's the spaces in between, all right? So when you have your boogie bop, as soon as you get that coordination, now try 2 boogie bops in a row. It's now putting the rhythm together and playing it in rhythm just more than once in a row. And I think sometimes that can be a little daunting at first, but just take it little by little. Whenever you do something new, focus on one thing at a time. Okay, so first you focused on just the muting motion, getting the muting motion, and now what you're going to focus on is the rhythm, putting the muting with the rhythm. So try 2 in a row at first. Boogie bop, boogie bop. Wait, 2, 3, 4. Boogie bop, boogie bop. Try again with me. Here we go. boogie, lift, cover, boogie, lift, cover. 1, 2, one more time. Boogie, lift, cover, boogie, lift, cover. And then you'd go for 3 in a row, then try for 4 in a row, and then try for 5, 6, 7, 8, or just see how long you can go without, losing that rhythm, okay? So just building little by little. Practicing with a metronome really does help because you thought boogie bop, boogie bop. It's going to keep you in rhythm. So we just talked about a C chord right here, like Katie. What about the other chords? Well, you're going to have to troubleshoot through this, but I'm going to show you some of the basic chords that we know on the ukulele, and then we're going to look for the remaining fingers that would be able to cover the strings so that we can form that nice, crisp, left-handed scratch or mute, okay? Now, the scratch with the strumming hand and then the left-handed mute here. There you go. So let's say we have our C chord. I taught you this one. It might be a little tricky right here, but just remember to release the pressure with your ring finger, create that mute, okay? Now, if we have a G7 chord, this is great because this has a chord where the majority of your fingers are covering a string. Awesome. Right here, these 3. But then it leaves one of the strings open. So what do? You can either take your thumb and lightly mute it, or just lightly touch it to mute it, like that. And then when you squeeze, my thumb remains muting the string or touching the string. So really, essentially, you're only playing these 3 strings. So when I have my boogie, they're very lightly touching these strings right here. And then my thumb is muting that G string. And then when I have my bop, I squeeze right here, and then I release the pressure for the bop. Like that. So give it a try, strum a G7 chord, and then just release the pressure, but then my fingers remain in contact with the string. Do you see that? Like that. So that works great. I'm not going to even bother to try to leave that string open. I'm just going to cover it. Okay? I'm not even going to mess with it because I don't want to mess with it. I think that it's more work. The work it's not worth it. There it is. Not worth it. You could go try to coordinate that thumb to move. I'm not that cool, but if you're cooler than I am, totally cool. That's totally fine. F chord. You can use these 2 fingers right here and mute. Now this does require a little bit different coordination because you're using your ring finger and pinky in tandem like this. But remember, it's just a little motion, a little lift, and a little cover. You don't have to cover a lot of distance when you're experimenting or when you're using your boogie bop. Not that much. Same with the A chord. A7. I'm going to use all of the extra fingers that I have. You could use 1 if you wanted to. I like to use all the help. Well, I need all the help that I can get. Let's just be honest. So I'm going to use all of these fingers right here. E7. This would work too with all 3 fingers. E7, an example of laying your fingers a little flat, would be here. Like take your middle finger, collapse it a little bit. So when you do your boogie and then when you have your bop, you lift. You may hear something ring out, that's okay, but that brings me to bar chords. Sometimes you have a chord that it sounds okay, and you have like one string that's kind of rogue and it kind of is ringing out and it doesn't exactly, you can't mute it with your thumb cleanly. But E7 is not ideal because you have to lay your finger down here and collapse and it's maybe not as clean. This is where the bar chords come in. Boogie bop is amazing for bar chords because you're not squeezing for the entire measure, right? Well, it's like squeezing, but you're using your push-pull motion. I have a video on bar chords, things like that. But your finger, right here, your index finger is covering everything that you need. And you don't have to hold on for dear life for the entire measure. You're really only strategically squeezing in the certain count that it needs it, and that would be the bop. So I have boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop. So my E7 that I'm using is the 4th fret here and the 5th fret of the A string. Boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop. And I can move that down to a B minor. Boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop. So it's a quick, when I have my strum boogie, lightly touch the strings to prevent them from vibrating. Then when I have my bop, I have a squeeze and release, like that. You see that my finger is curved. It's rolled onto its side, not straight up and down, but rolled onto its side. Not completely like this right there, but it's just a slight roll. And so I'm bringing my elbow in just slightly. And then once I have that in contact with the strings, I feel like I get a really nice clamp. And then I'm taking my elbow and I'm bringing the ukulele neck, not the neck, the body into my body, and the neck is swinging forward, right? All right, now I use my bicep, my larger muscles to pull it back. Boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop, boogie bop. I feel like that's really helped me a lot, especially when my hands are tired and I've been playing for a long time, and the bar chord technique maybe has gone by the wayside. So trying that with the bar chord, or experiment with your open chords, and then what are the extra fingers that you have in order to do the lift cover? The bop, bop, bop. And then experiment with this rhythm with different songs. One of my favorite things to do actually is to take a song that is not reggae or in one style and then flip it to another style. Or I love it when people do that, when artists do that. And so maybe take a cute song like You Are My Sunshine. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Oh, love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So that is the number one secret that I believe would be for strumming a reggae beat, is keeping that rhythm with the boogie bop, left-handed muting. Have fun with it, experiment with it, take it slow, because like I said before, the best thing to do when you try something new is to take it one step at a time. All right, if you would like some songs that incorporate this boogie bop, I'm going to put that over here, and I will see you in the next one. And remember, you are loved. Bye.